Really, really nervous, but it's incredibly exciting, and I feel really lucky to have been in this position to publish a book. So
Lovely. And you talk in your
great.
book about notoriety, about your report of your brother-in-law. What's the last couple of years been like for you?
It's been a crazy couple of years since my sister's wedding, but it's had its upsides and downsides, and I just feel really fortunate to be able to build a career as a writer.
And what are your memories of the royal wedding like?
Oh, crazy, but
Pippa, how are you coping with the global recognition? How are you coping with all that?
Pippa Middleton became a household name. Cameras couldn't get enough of her, and overnight she was launched into the global spotlight. Not because of a title, but because of her presence. But while the world was fascinated by the Duchess of Cambridge's younger sister, Pippa herself seemed to step back. She didn't chase fame. Instead, she built a life away from flashing bulbs, marrying hedge fund manager James Matthews in 2017 in a beautiful yet private ceremony. The wedding was lavish, sure, but her marriage? Much quieter. Despite her retreat from the media, Pippa's name keeps surfacing. Whether it's changes in her public appearances, whispers about her marriage, or those rare glimpses into her personal life, it's clear something is happening. But what really went wrong behind closed doors? Let's rewind the timeline.
Let's talk about life post-wedding. Has the fact that your sister now has taken on this enormous role, not only as a mom, but in her role with the royal family, has it changed your relationship?
not particularly. No, obviously she has pressures that she's taken on and things, but we spend a lot of time together. We still do a lot together as a family, and I think that's sort of the heart for all of us, is having a really close family that we can sort of be normal with each other, treat each other normally, and that sort of kept us all sort of, fixed to the ground. And
back in 2011, all eyes were supposed to be on Kate Middleton as she married Prince William in the royal wedding of the decade. But it wasn't long before the media found a new fascination: Kate's younger sister, Pippa. Her role as maid of honor was simple: support her sister. But her sleek figure in that now-alcoholic Alexander McQueen white dress turned her into a global obsession overnight. Suddenly, Pippa wasn't just the royal plus one, she was her royal hotness, plastered across front pages, internet forums, and fashion blogs. Her backside became headline material. Some praised her elegance, others critiqued the attention she received for something so shallow. Either way, she was now famous, whether she wanted it or not. She hadn't asked for it. Unlike Kate, who had years to prepare for public scrutiny as William's girlfriend, Pippa was put into the spotlight without warning. Her background as a party planner and occasional columnist didn't prepare her for this level of exposure, and while many thought she'd ride the wave into celebrity status, Pippa hesitated. Offers for modeling, reality TV, and product deals poured in, but she turned most of them down. She didn't want to become tabloid fodder, but despite her efforts to keep things quiet, the media wouldn't let go. But while the cameras were fixated on her figure, very few saw the emotional price she was quietly paying.
we have a very normal sisterly relationship. We're very close, and we support each other and get each other's opinions and things.
With all eyes watching, Pippa tried to continue life as normally as possible, including her love life. But privacy was no longer something she could rely on. She had been dating Alex Loudon, a former England cricketer turned financier at the time of the royal wedding. He was well-bred and seemed to be the kind of person who could handle the media storm. But just months after the wedding, their relationship collapsed. The pressure was too much. Friends of the couple hinted that Alex couldn't deal with the constant attention and the changed dynamics in their relationship. Pippa was now a public figure, and every move she made became news. After the breakup, her dating life became a tabloid target. She was linked to several high-profile names, including banker Nico Jackson. Though they managed to stay together for a while, the attention surrounding Pippa made long-term stability difficult. Paparazzi followed them even during private vacations. Media speculation followed every dinner date and public outing. Pippa was being chased not just for who she was, but for who she might be seen with. And in the middle of this chaos, a familiar face quietly reappeared in her life: James Matthews. Just when she thought she could breathe again, another name entered the picture, and this one stuck. James Matthews wasn't new. He and Pippa had briefly dated back in 2012, but it hadn't gone far at the time. When they reconnected a few years later, though, things were different. James was older, more grounded, and came with his own sense of stability, something Pippa seemed to be craving after years of tabloid noise. James wasn't just another city banker. He was CEO of Eden Rock Capital Management Group, a hedge fund company, and came from serious money. His family owns the luxurious Eden Rock Resort in St. Bart's, and his brother Spencer Matthews was a known figure from the reality show Made in Chelsea. Despite the family's public connections, James himself managed to stay mostly low-key discreet and serious about business. In 2017, Pippa and James tied the knot in a picturesque countryside wedding in Berkshire. It was elegant, classic, and very Pippa. Guests included royalty and celebrities, but the couple tried to keep things tasteful and intimate. After years of public scrutiny, this wedding seemed like a statement. She was done playing the media's game. They settled into life outside the city, splitting their time between London and their sprawling Bucklebury home. They now have 3 children, and Pippa took on more philanthropic work and sports causes. For a while, things looked calm, almost perfect. She had found someone who didn't chase the spotlight and who gave her space to grow out of her sister's shadow. But every fairy tale has its cracks, and this one began to show faster than anyone expected.
I don't think it's that bad, but I think that the nature of Twitter and Facebook, people, even if they spot me, will just say they've just seen me somewhere, and particularly in a restaurant. That sort of could be the worst, because if someone tweets in a restaurant, then...
At first glance, Pippa Middleton and James Matthews looked like the perfect couple. But behind the smiles and carefully coordinated public photos, their lifestyles were quietly drifting apart. James had always been a private figure. Despite his wealth, business success, and famous connections, he rarely sought the spotlight. His world was quiet boardrooms, rural escapes, and time with close family. Public attention didn't interest him, he avoided it. Pippa, on the other hand, wasn't built to stay in the background. Though she never tried to be a celebrity, fame clung to her. Her appearances at Wimbledon, charity events, and society parties didn't stop after marriage. She stayed active in public life, writing, working with fitness brands, and maintaining her role as a familiar face in British high society. Even after having children, she returned quickly to her active lifestyle, often seen cycling, running, or attending upscale gatherings. James, meanwhile, was absent from most of these moments. Unlike other public couples, Pippa and James were rarely photographed together outside family events or weddings. She often showed up solo. But his absence always raised quiet questions. It wasn't just that he was camera shy, their rhythms were different. She thrived in public-facing settings, he stayed behind the scenes. Over time, those differences started to show. What once seemed like balance began to look more like incompatibility. She moved through London's social circles with ease, while he preferred the quiet of the countryside or a private business retreat. They were living together, but not quite in sync. Long before anyone spoke of trouble, the signs were already there. They were just easy to overlook. Pippa started appearing at major events without her wedding ring. Sometimes it was brushed off as nothing but a chunk of stone, which was nothing more than a reflection of unique Christmas Eve lighting all around, and the style choice, but the pattern repeated. As time went on, James became more and more absent, even from key public events where his presence would have been expected. From charity galas to royal christenings, Pippa often stood alone or with her siblings. There were also shifts in tone. Media stories about Pippa became less focused on her marriage and more on her individual lifestyle. Her health columns returned, her social outings picked up, paparazzi began to catch her leaving events solo or heading out on getaways with friends, not her husband. Still, most of it stayed under the radar. The tabloids were too busy chasing royal headlines focusing on Prince Harry's controversies or Kate's royal duties. Pippa, never officially part of the firm, flew under the noise. Her image remained intact, well-dressed, smiling, seemingly stable. But those who paid closer attention could tell something wasn't quite right. While the cameras zoomed in on royal drama, this storm was quietly brewing in the background. Being Kate Middleton's sister came with invisible weight. From the moment Pippa stepped into the spotlight at that royal wedding, she wasn't just someone's sibling. She was suddenly expected to carry herself with the same poise, charm, and discipline. But she didn't have the royal team to back her. No advisors, no palace strategy, just pressure. She wasn't the future queen, but she was still held to high standards. Her fashion, her fitness, her parenting, even her posture, everything was up for public judgment. She was the middle child, always expected to shine, but never allowed to outshine. And she tried. Whether through her book, her fitness routines, or her charity work, Pippa carved her own path. But with every step, there was a comparison. To Kate, to the monarchy, to the version of perfection the public placed on her. That perfection bled into her marriage. She worked hard to protect it, to present it as solid and refined, but behind the curated images and polished moments, she was carrying a burden, trying to meet expectations, trying not to slip. In private, that kind of pressure builds, it doesn't explode overnight. It wears down slowly. And when your partner lives at a different pace, far from public gaze, that distance grows. The need to be perfect becomes a wall, a quiet emotional barrier that no red carpet or Instagram-worthy photo can cover.
I have felt publicly bullied a little bit just by, when I read things that clearly aren't true, or that, whichever way someone looks at it, it's a negative side. And it's quite difficult because effectively I'm just paving my way and trying to live a life like any 30-year-old.
Now, sources close to the couple are confirming what many had quietly suspected for years. Pippa Middleton and James Matthews are no longer together. The separation didn't come with fireworks or front-page headlines. It was slow, quiet, and carefully managed, just like their marriage had been. But under the surface, the issues were real. Family insiders say the real problem wasn't infidelity or scandal, it was their incompatible lives. James preferred privacy, control, and a quiet lifestyle, while Pippa was drawn to visibility, charity work, and maintaining a social image. Their values didn't clash dramatically, but they didn't align either. Over time, that emotional distance grew into something harder to ignore. Reports suggest that subtle legal filings were made privately, avoiding publicity. Some close to the family say the turning point came not long after Pippa's third child was born. Balancing motherhood, public work, and a marriage that lacked emotional support pushed her to reevaluate what she really wanted. She had spent years trying to hold things together for the sake of image, but at some point, appearances weren't enough. After years of smiling for the cameras, Pippa finally made a choice for herself, not for the headlines. She continues to support foundations, especially those related to health and children's welfare. She's still a mother of 3, still a public figure in her own right, and still quietly navigating her life away from the royal spotlight. This divorce may not have come with public statements or drawn-out drama, but it signals a turning point. Pippa has spent years balancing roles of royal adjacent, wife, mother, and media figure, always trying to live up to public expectations. But this decision suggests she's finally living for herself. In a world obsessed with crowns, titles, and appearances, Pippa Middleton may have just reclaimed the one thing she never truly had: her freedom. What do you think finally broke their relationship? Comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more royal updates.